In November 1983, Swiss cantonal police answered an emergency call at an isolated luxury estate near the French border. Inside lay Henri De-Vassal, a legendary multi-millionaire designer of mechanical marine chronometers. He had been executed with a single high-velocity close-range gunshot to the chest. His personal wall safe had been completely cleaned out of intellectual property patents and offshore corporate records. There were no signs of forced entry. To the veteran detectives on scene, it bore all the markings of a cold, calculated corporate assassination. But as the investigation unfolded, the detectives would find themselves locked in a psychological battle against a flawless digital alibi. Today, we break down the declassified forensic files of a case where early computer manipulation met the absolute, unyielding physics of mechanical timekeeping. No summaries, no pacing changes. Listen closely. The primary suspect was immediately identified as De-Vassal's former software development director and minority business partner. The motive was massive, worth millions in stolen manufacturing patents. However, when investigators detained him, he presented an airtight, machine-verified alibi. At the estimated time of the murder, exactly 23:30 hours, the central computerized check-in system of a luxury hotel in Geneva recorded his physical passport scan and electronic room key activation. The distance was mathematically impossible to cover by car or private aircraft in that time frame. The digital ledger was definitive, uneditable, and locked inside an early mainframe network server. The suspect sat in the interrogation room with absolute confidence, knowing that the digital grid protected him from the gallows. But the digital world has one critical vulnerability. It must eventually interface with physical reality. While examining the victim's body at the state morgue, the lead forensic pathologist noticed Henri De-Vassal's personal watch still fastened to his left wrist. It was a custom mechanical chronometer of his own design, a masterwork of pure gravity gears with no battery, no microchips, and no electrical circuits. The gold hands were not pointing to 23:30. Instead, they were frozen permanently at exactly 18:15. For a digital alibi to stand, the victim had to have died 5 hours later than the watch indicated. The suspect claimed the watch must have simply run out of its mainspring power reserve or suffered a random mechanical failure. But forensic watchmaking specialists were about to prove otherwise. When a high-velocity bullet strikes a human torso, it does not merely puncture tissue. It creates a massive, instantaneous kinetic shockwave that ripples through the entire skeletal frame at thousands of feet per second. In the field of forensic ballistics, this energy transfer is immense. The microscopic pivot staff of a high-end mechanical watch balance will measures less than 0.1 millimeters in diameter. The shockwave passing through De-Vassal's wrist at the exact microsecond of the bullet's impact was so violent that it physically warped the delicate balance staff against its ruby jewel bearings. The friction jammed the gears instantly. The watch didn't run down over time. It was knocked dead in a single millisecond. The laws of kinetic energy proved that Henri De-Vassal's heart and his mechanical chronometer stopped at the exact same microsecond, 18:15. Armed with the physical evidence of the frozen chronometer, cybercrimes investigators re-examined the hotel's central mainframe computer network. They discovered that the suspect had used his deep knowledge of early network protocols to exploit a critical flaw in the hotel's remote check-in infrastructure. 6 hours prior to the murder, he had remotely accessed the building's master clock controller from a public phone booth data terminal, manually setting the server time back by exactly 5 hours. He then drove to the chalet, executed his partner at 18:15, and casually checked into the hotel hours later. The computer system, operating on the manipulated internal clock, dutifully stamped his arrival as 23:30. He had successfully hacked the digital ledger, but he had completely failed to account for the unhackable physics of mechanical gears. The financial investigation quickly pinned down the exact motive behind this clinical execution. Hidden beneath the floorboards of the study, detectives found a secondary, undisclosed ledger. Henri De-Vassal had discovered that his partner was secretly selling the company's advanced mechanical patents to an overseas mega-conglomerate. The victim was planning to formally strip the suspect of his corporate shares and file criminal fraud charges the very next morning. The stolen safe documents contained the only existing master engineering schematics for a revolutionary anti-magnetic maritime movement, a technology worth tens of millions in commercial licensing fees. The suspect didn't just commit a murder to escape justice. He did it to seize absolute control of an entire engineering empire. During the final trial in Geneva, the prosecution presented a masterclass in forensic engineering. The defense argued that digital records must take precedence over an old-world mechanical device. To counter this, the state called a master watchmaker to the stand. Under a high-powered projector lens, he demonstrated to the court that the balance wheel staff was not merely broken. It was permanently bent in the exact direction of the kinetic shockwave path. He then proved that the mainspring inside still held a full 40 hours of stored kinetic potential energy. The mechanism had been forced to a violent stop while fully wound. The digital matrix of the mainframe logs collapsed under the weight of undeniable physical metallurgy. The jury returned a verdict of guilty in less than 3 hours. The frozen chronometer case remains a foundational landmark in the history of modern forensics. It exposed the cold truth that while digital data can be manipulated, erased, or rewritten with a few lines of code, the physical laws of nature leave a permanent, unalterable footprint. A killer tried to hide behind the early digital frontier, but he was brought down by a centuries-old network of miniature gears, springs, and jewels that refused to lie. The chalet sits silent in the snow. The mainframe records have been archived, but time never stops moving. Thank you for watching this complete, unedited investigation. If you want more long-form documentaries that expose the raw, hidden mechanics of true crime, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment with Alibi below, and listen to the gears.